Hello, and welcome to OSBM First Friday Training Series on Carryforward and Closeout Kickoff for state agencies. Topics that are included to be covered are Carryforward, Operating Closeout, and Capital Closeout. My name is Unica Valentine, and I'm a Budget Execution Analyst at OSBM. On this session, it will be covering Carryforward. Information regarding operating year-end closeout and capital closeout is available in a separate audio recording. For today's presentation, I will be covering the Carryforward Authority, Carryforward Timeline, and walking through steps on how to complete the Carryforward template. The authority to care for funds is governed by General Statute 143C 6-4-1. Carryforward is the balance of the general fund operating budget that would normally revert at year end, but instead is made available in the next fiscal year to liquidate an encumbrance. An encumbrance is a financial obligation created by a purchase order, contract, or an unearned or prepaid collections for services provided by the state or other legally binding agreement. Encumbrances are classified into four distinct categories: required by general statute, unearned revenue, liability accounts unearned revenue, and documented encumbrances. Carryforward of funds may only be used for approved purpose. Unless specified by law, those funds carried forward should not be transferred or moved out of the general fund. Funds carried forward to support encumbrance are subject to cash availability. Carried forward is broken down into four categories. Category A, these are non-reverting funds by general statute or session law. This includes civil penalties and forfeiture funds and carried forward special provisions enacted or proposed by the General Assembly. Agency may submit Category A carried forward requests if pending Senate or House legislation contains non-reverting language for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. This also includes language from Session Law 2026-1, Section 1.1, House Bill 696, which extend the directed grants reversion until June 30th, 2027. Any agency that received a directed grant in fiscal years 2023 and 2024, those funds were expected to revert June 30th, 2026. But per House Bill 696, those funds revert June 30th, 2027. Category B, unearned revenue, is revenue that is received this fiscal year for goods and services that will be provided next fiscal year, such as permit and certification fees. Category B2, liability accounts or earned revenue, is received in the current fiscal year and deposited into liability accounts. Examples of those accounts are AP recovery clearing accounts, accrued sales tax payable accounts, and payable clearing accounts. Category C is your documented encumbrances that are made on or before June 5th, 2026, which is a deadline set by OSBM, which can be different each year. You want to ensure that you have all necessary supporting documents to support and validate these requests. Particularly for Category C, the NC balance by various combination report will be the report to submit for Category C requests, and that report can be found in NCFS. Here are the important dates regarding the Carryforward timeline. June 5th is the deadline to encumber funds for Carryforward eligibility. June 17th, preliminary estimates are due to OSBM from DHHS, DPI, and UNC. July 2nd, final requests are due from all agencies for Carryforward. Mid-July, OSBM Carryforward decisions are finalized, and OSBM will notify agencies of the approved Carryforward decisions. Around mid to late July, after agencies are notified, agencies can submit budget revisions to OSBM. OSBM approves carried forward revisions, and the carried forward cash is transferred to OSC. July 27th is OSC cash closing deadline. This is the final date cash can be transferred between budget codes. July 28th, the reversion allotment is due to OSBM. Here is the carried forward template. This is where you would enter all of your carried forward requests into the highlighted fields. To begin, please ensure that the individual responsible for completing the carried forward provides their full name, email address, and telephone number in the contact information section. If there are any questions regarding carried forward, this is who your agency budget execution analyst will contact for any questions. On the next couple of slides, I will walk you through how to thoroughly complete the template. On the template, drop-down menus are available to help minimize manual input. When completing your carried forward request, only one NCFS budget code is allowed per sheet. If you need an additional budget code, you'll need to create a duplicate tab in the existing workbook. On the next slide, I'll walk you through the steps on how to add an additional sheet. If you need an additional budget code to your existing carried forward request template, you'll need to right-click on the existing sheet you're working in, select Move or Copy, make sure it's copied to the same book, which is your carried forward request template, move to End, and select the button Create a Copy and click OK. If you need additional rows within the same budget code, you need to insert new rows in the middle of the range of the template. If you try to insert from the top or the bottom, it will mess up the formatting and formulas. When you start working on your carried forward request, choose your budget code from the drop-down box. Your agency name should automatically populate in the budget code description column. Once you start entering information, the highlights disappear. Once you choose your budget code, select your budget fund from the drop-down box where the cash is available for your request, or you can begin typing, then select from the drop-down box. You will only enter one budget fund per line per request. On the next slide, I will go over the chart of accounts combination. On the previous slide, we talked about selecting your agency budget code and budget fund. On this slide, we'll be discussing the chart of accounts segments. You want to make sure you enter the chart of accounts combination. All segments should be included from where the cash is available to be carried forward. Matching the budget fund with the full chart of accounts string is important on your request. On the next slide, I will be going over selecting the category for your carried forward request. From the drop-down box, you want to select the carried forward category, whether it's Category A, required by general statute, Category B, unearned revenue, Category B2, liability accounts unearned revenue, or Category C, documented encumbrances. Ensuring that your request is assigned to the appropriate category is essential. The next slide covers the carried forward item description column. The item description column is listing what the carried forward is for. If it's Category A, what is the statutory carried forward for? Is it fines and penalties or funds that were non-reverting by general statute? Make sure you list the appropriate name for the statutory item. If it's category C, reference the PO number and vendor name in the item description and send the PO balance report to your budget execution analyst. On the next slide, I will go over care for requests for category A citation field column. When submitting a request for Category A, you must include the legislative citation in the statutory special provision citation required field column. This is very important for those Category A requests. Next slide is the justification comment section column. The justification comment section needs to be as detailed as much as possible. This is the opportunity for agencies to stress the need to care for any items. For Category A, the language from the statute section law should be included in the justification. You can also reference the committee report item in this section as well. For Category C, include an explanation as to why this encumbrance cannot be spent by the end of this fiscal year. Is it a supply chain delay, vendor issue, or your agency don't have the funds to cover this expense? Those details are very helpful for us understanding the urgency of your request. Next slide, I will be going over the amount of the request column. On the amount of the request column, the budget funds cannot be rolled up. They should be broken out. This is required because OSC requires a specific budget fund to reference as the end fund for end of year transfers to the Carryforward reserve. The final line will total all requests. Here are several guidelines for encumbrance Carryforward requests. Carryforward is only allowed when funding is not available the next fiscal year. Previous Carryforward approvals cannot be requested. If there was a Carryforward request that was approved the previous fiscal year, then you can't request the item on this year's Carryforward. POs under $5,000 should not be included. Individual POs for more than $5,000 should be listed separately. Third-party grants must be listed separately regardless of the amount. For Category C, agencies should provide the NCPO balance by various chart of accounts report, which is found in NCFS. At the end of answering all of your Carryforward requests, your template should look like this. This is an example of a template that we have, and I'm going to read the justification and go over if these items is okay to request for Carryforward. First, we have PO 1234, and the amount of the request is $10,000. Next, we have PO 5678, and the amount of the request is $2,500. Next, we have PO 91011, and the amount is $125,000. Then we have PO 4321, which was originally encumbered in fiscal year 2023-24, and the remaining balance was carried forward into 2024-25. The balance on PO 4321 remains $5,001. The amount of the request is $5,001. Next, we have grant contract 1234, and the amount is $10,000. And then the last but not least is grant contract 5678, and the amount is $3,500. Most of these items is okay to request for Carryforward because it's over the $5,000 Carryforward encumbrance threshold. I do want to mention that grant 1234 in the amount of $3,500 can be requested on Category C because grants to third parties are allowed regardless of the amount. but PO 5678 and 4321 are not allowed to request for carry forward, and I'll explain why. PO 5678 in the amount of $2,500 cannot be requested because it's under the $5,000 threshold, and they should not be requested for carry forward. Then we have PO 4321 in the amount of $5,001. This is not okay to request for carry forward because this request was approved last year for carry forward for the same amount. Keep in mind, previous carry forward approvals cannot be requested. If there was a carry forward request that was approved the previous fiscal year, then you can't request the item on this year's carry forward. I do want to point out a couple errors that are on this template. The budget fund and chart of account stream only match for the first carry forward request. The others do not. Matching these confirms cash availability in that specific budget fund and account stream, so they should always match. I also want to point out on the last carry forward request, in the item description, the grant number is listed as 5678, but in the justification comment section is listed as 1234. Please ensure that the grant numbers, PO numbers that are entered in these columns are consistent and are accurately matched. This will conclude the Carry Forward training. Information regarding operating, year-end closeout, and capital closeout is available in a separate audio, as I mentioned before. If you have any questions, please reach out to your budget execution analyst. Thank you.